and I grow up under that oppression and that poverty, and the wall comes down, am I also strong enough? Or even constructed in such a way where I say, this is too far. I don't know that I am. You know, I don't know that I am.
And that right there is, and I just got the chills just listening to that, because you have to try to force yourself into that situation. One, you got to be educated enough to understand what type of environment they were living in. So my question is, do people as an individual and as a people, do we have the right to fight for our dignity? Do we have the right to fight for our self-existence? Because it feels like that question there gets lost in a whole conversation of this Israel and Palestine conflict. It feels like that basic understanding just gets lost in translation. And I know there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of feelings on either side of the conversation. I get that. But we can't have a serious conversation really about anything if we don't understand some principle understandings of human understanding, a human just reacting to circumstances. Okay, like I don't know how else simply to put that. When it comes to the Palestinian people, life didn't start on October 7th. And I know we heard that 1,000,001 times, but it didn't. Like just read some things. It's been an ongoing back and forth, and it seems like people are confused when people like myself and like we're about to watch and hopefully I'm not gonna butcher his name too bad. Ta-Nehisi Coates, kind of like he expressed is, you know, we can hear day and night for hours and hours of people's feelings, people's sentiments for the Israeli people, especially the 1,200 that died a year ago. There's not a shortage of people expressing their feelings in that regards. Okay, you can just type in Israel and probably all over the internet you can find people talking about that. But what you don't find is people standing up for the innocent Palestinian people. And why I feel like some people may not be as brave to speak up for that is because you seem to automatically get clumped with terrorist. And I mean, contrary to popular belief, those are two separate things. Innocent people and those who are trying to inflict harm on other innocent people are two different categories. Okay? But let's go ahead. It's weird that I gotta like explain that like you're like fifth graders. It should be something that all adults should understand, but I find myself explaining like basic humanity to people. But let's listen to Mr. Coates. I'm gonna call him Mr. Coates because I don't want to butcher his name if I'm saying that incorrectly. Let's listen to his viewpoint and how he is struggling to let people know and have an honest conversation that he doesn't want anyone innocent, Israeli or Palestinian, on either side to be killed for little to no reason. Like that's not okay as being a human being, you know? So let's hear what he has to say.
But to your point, removing the context I think is actually essential. You know what I mean? Because if you start asking why, then you really, really start to get into trouble. I mean, one of the things I've really tried to maintain both personally and in, you know, my public presentation is obviously my great horror at, maybe not obviously, but my great horror at October 7th.
Right.
The fact that I don't say that perfunctorily but I say it because at the core of my politics is human life.
Yeah.
And human life really, really matters to me. And thus, by that same token, if human life matters on October 7th, it should have mattered on October 6th and October 5th too. And understanding that it didn't. When I went over to travel to the West Bank and to Israel, and I was up and down the country, I went to, from Haifa, Jerusalem, South Hebron Hills, Hebron itself, Lyd, Tel Aviv. What they told me was Gaza's worse. Because I know you've seen some stuff, and you and say Gaza, and this is obviously before October. They said Gaza is worse.
Wow.
And I was trying to get there, but there's all sorts of things in terms of press access and everything that I couldn't. And so I just think, like, is there room in the world? And I don't think there is right now. I actually don't think there is, to have genuine horror at what happened on October 7th, to feel like there really isn't a world in which, or reason that I can apprehend. I'm not Palestinian, I'm Ta-Nehisi Coates, that I can apprehend for justifying anything like that. And yet understanding at the same time that things have histories, that they happen in the course of events. The example I think about all the time is like Nat Turner, right? Like Nat Turner launches his rebellion in 1830. This man slaughters babies in their cribs. You know what I mean? Like, and I've done this this experiment for myself over and over. Does the degradation and dehumanization of slavery make it so that you can look past something like that? And I try to imagine, and I think I can accurately imagine as much as possible, that there were enslaved people, no matter how dehumanized, that said, this is too far.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, is a beautiful delivery of what the conversation needs to be. And of course, the conversation is going to be awkward because you're not trying to justify the killing of innocent people that happened on October 7th. But at the same time, you want to say these people have been occupied, and we're going to get into the real definition of what that means, because I think a lot of people don't understand that fully. But at the same time, saying they're going to resist at some point, and they tried the peaceful way. What was it? The PLO, I believe. I don't have my notes in front of me, but it's been a lot of history, and you need to kind of at least have a broad understanding of that. So then when you're having this conversation, you could be honest in saying people are going to resist. And unfortunately, when you push the human limits, when you push people far enough in the corner, they're going to fight back, and they don't care who it is. Man, women, children, anybody, old people, anybody could get it. And you have to be honest with yourself. If I was in slavery back in those times, and you treated me like an animal, and you gave me the worst working conditions, the worst living conditions, the worst treatment that you can give a human being, if you brought that onto me and my family, my dad and my mom and my kids, I am going to try to kill you. I'm just going to be as simple as possible. I'm going to see you as my enemy. I don't care what your color is. I don't care what your gender is. I don't care if you have kids or not. I don't care what your religion is. You're treating me with no humanity. So you're going to force an enemy out of me. You're going to force the evilness that we all have to a certain extent. You're forcing that out of me. And at some point, I'm not going to care. I have nothing else to lose. So how do you expect me to react? We got to be honest here. And once again, like Mr. Cole said, like during that rebellion with Nat Turner, I'm assuming, because that's the nature of black folks. Like there had to be some opposition within that group that said, I don't want to kill kids. I don't want to kill women. I just want to attack those who who cracked me with the whip, who killed my moms, who beat me till I passed out. Those are the people I want to attack. But then I gotta understand the people that lost everything and just don't care about nothing at all. I have to understand their rage and their frustration and their anger and their hatred. You have to try to put yourself in their shoes. And if you're not intellectually capable of doing that, then this conversation is not for you. I'm sorry. Like, go to a lighter conversation, but something as deep as this is not for the weak. You have to be honest with yourself. So I think that's pretty simple.
I can't do that. Now here's the flip side of it. And I haven't said this out loud, but I think about it a lot. Were I 20 years old, born into Gaza, which is a giant open-air jail, and what I mean by that is if my father is a fisherman and he goes too far out into the sea, he might get shot by somebody off of, the side of Israeli boats. If my mother picks the olive trees and she gets too close to the wall, she might be shot. If my little sister has, cancer and she needs treatment because there are no, facilities to do that in Gaza and I don't get the right permits, she might die. And I grow up under that oppression and that poverty and the wall comes down. Am I also strong enough or even constructed in such a way where I say, this is too far? I don't know that I am. I don't know that I am.
And that right there is, and I just got the chills just listening to that, because you have to try to force yourself into that situation. One, you got to be educated enough to understand what type of environment they were living in. It wasn't just like, everything was just flourishing and, they just, life was just amazing in Gaza. You have to understand, educate yourself. I know you may not want to. I know reading sometimes is like punishment to some people, but you have to understand what they were living through, and then you can properly set yourself into that moment. And like he said, like when that wall went down, what would you do? And I already told you what I would do. I don't have, and I'm living pretty decent right now, and I will lose it all if something happened to my family. Anybody and everybody would get it. I don't care who you are. You gonna get it. I'm going down and I'm taking everybody with me. So with me having that type of mindset and I'm living pretty decently, can you imagine somebody who doesn't even have a fraction of what I have? And if they have the opportunity to inflict some sort of harm onto their enemies, to the people who's causing this low of a lifestyle to them, they're going to take the opportunity. And like I said, it has nothing to do with religion. I hate when people are trying to make it like these Palestinian people don't like Jews or something. Like they just want to kill all Jews. Like, no, they want to destroy the people who's keeping them in occupation. It don't matter if it's Africans, Chinese, Vietnamese, it doesn't matter. Religion has nothing to do with it. So be honest with yourself. And I guarantee you may not want to say it out loud. You may not want to publicly tell people, but you will understand. That's simple.
And I just wish we had room to work through that. You know what I mean? And to think about that and to talk about that. And I think that is not unique to Israel. That is not unique to Palestine. That is not unique to Zionism. That is human history. That's human beings. I always tell people, they think if they lived in the time of slavery that they would not have been enslavers. And I always tell them, you would have.
Yeah.
You would have, because it's a system.
Yeah.
And most human beings, we exist within context.
System. Yeah, we do.
Within context. And without that, you know what I mean? This idea that there can be some triumphant heroic individual who's gonna go above and beyond. That's not a real thing. That's not history.
All right, that was beautiful. Once again, you have to educate yourself, which we're about to do right now. I'm about to read this as quick as possible. I'll probably just go back to this mode here so I can post right here what I'm reading so you guys can follow along. In simple terms, under international law, a state is considered to be occupying a territory if it controls that area without permission from the country that legally owns it. So once again, if you don't have to do a deep dive of the history of the Israel-Palestine conflict. Just look up some basic stuff, all right? At least the portion of Gaza was theirs, like I said with air quotes, at least, it was theirs, all right? And it says occupation happens when a hostile army takes control of a place and has the power to enforce its authority there. All right, so once again, I had to do a little, thinking, brainstorming of what conditions can transpire under an occupation, especially, an occupation that isn't like trying to make the best out of the situation. All right. One is human rights abuse. Occupations can result in violations of basic human rights, such as restrictions of freedom of movement, unjust arrest, or violence against civilians. Once again, read a couple things, read a couple articles, a couple books. That's been going on before October 7th. Economic hardship. Occupied territories may face economic decline due to disruption in trade, loss of access to resources, and restrictions on economic activities. Social and cultural tensions. Occupations can deepen divisions between communities, leading to tension, resentment, and long-term conflict. That's literally what we're seeing before our eyes. Is that right there? Loss of sovereignty. The local government and people lose control over their territory, leading to feelings of powerlessness and frustration. And that is like the breeding ground to where extreme institutions, extreme groups can fester in situations like that and take advantage of the situation. Hamas, once again, I hear a lot of things from the left and the right, but my belief is if Hamas is acting in bad faith, they're using the conflict to rally up the Palestinian people to assist them. This wouldn't happen if people had no reason to beef with Israel. Like, it's really simple stuff. Military conflict. Occupied areas may experience continued violence and resistance, leading to further destruction and instability. Displacement. Occupations often force people to leave their homes, leading to refugee crisis and widespread displacement. That's literally what's happening, or what has happened before October 7th. And if you can't grasp that reality, then of course you're going to just assume that these Palestinian people, Hamas, just hates Israel because they're Jewish and they just want to kill all Jews around the whole world. That's what you're going to believe. But once again, it's simple understanding. And I got this quote from a Christian rapper, KB, and it stuck with me. This is like a 10-year-old song, but he said, if you don't respect our existence, then you have to expect our resistance. Plain and simple. Respect our existence or expect our resistance. That right there wraps it up in a pretty bow tie for you to, break down, consume, and then let me know. But of course, let's go ahead and go back here. If you guys disagree with anything that I said in this video here, one, you can join the Discord so we can have a one-on-one conversation, because sometimes I don't like typing 500, 600 characters in a YouTube comment. That's doing too much. Or you can let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And like always, let's have that conversation.